So I think there's like a 20-second lag to
right.
to YouTube. So thank you so much for joining us, folks. This is the first At Home with Mark, and came out of the gate screaming with my buddy Joey here. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been supportive of this process of me putting this stuff together, and thank you so much to Joey. I'm super pumped to have Joey as the first person. So Joey obviously is not only an award-winning songwriter, one of my favorite songwriters, guitar icon, I would say now.
Get out of here.
But an all-around wonderful human being. And I just want to thank you, Joey, for stopping by and spending some time with me today, man.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure's all mine.
And I'm thinking, what we can do here. I told Joey I wanted this to be different than kind of normal interviews that maybe you've done. And I want to do it. So, I mean, we've known each other for several years now. I've studied with Joey a lot, and Joey helped me. And just a quick aside, and I told you this too last time I saw you, but I was like ready to give up on guitar. And I saw Joey's video with the captain on Anderton's channel. And I was like, who is this dude? Because I love Derek trucks, and we can get into Derek trucks and all that stuff later. But I reached out to Joey, and I started studying with Joey, and you totally saved my musical life, man. I was about to throw my guitar away and just get out of songwriting, do, the normal dad stuff that I normally do. But you totally saved it, man. And like all that music for my last record, and, graciously you played on it. Thank you so much. But like, dude, a completely different outlook on music now. So thanks, brother.
Oh man, that means so much to me. I'm so you honor me, my friend. Truly.
Man, you know what? Power up.
you had that queued up. You're like, oh, I get to do it,
dude. I got plenty for you. So, so what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the music that made you want to pick up the guitar. So I want to talk a lot about like artists and specific records and specific songs that like lit your fire. So is there a tune like growing up that you heard that you're like, shit, I gotta play guitar? Like, is there something that really stands out?
No, because I didn't start as a guitar player. I mean, I can hardly say that I started as a piano player, but that was my first instrument. That was my first kind of love. And is that my phone ringing?
It might be. I hear a vibration.
Sorry. I'm using my phone as my camera because the camera on my computer is so garbage.
That's all good.
We might fight that, folks, but it's for the best. You get a break from this mustache.
Yeah. The mustache is dope. I told him that as soon as he came on. Let's all give a round of applause for the mustache. It's fantastic.
Stop it. Yeah. So for me, it was Beethoven. That was the first thing that made me really, really interested in music, and particularly, it was the of course I didn't do that, but it was that piece of music, and that was the first thing that I heard that I kind of was like moved by, and then it moved me to want to play, and that was the first thing. And then when I got into the guitar, it was like my parents separated when I was a little kid, so guitar lessons were a way for me and my dad to hang out a little extra. So I wasn't actually interested in the guitar. I was just interested in hanging out with my dad. And then I think my love for the guitar grew probably. I can pinpoint it to a live music experience, and it was like there's a lot of live music here in Winnipeg, and there were tons of little concert series and stuff that happened over the summer, and a local artist was playing, and I saw this guy play the guitar, and I just understood for the first time like what it was all about. And it was the first time that I really kind of got into blues, because before that I was like super into punk rock, and I wanted to just be a punk rocker. I was really into NoFX. That was my favorite band. Pardon me. And when I heard this band, I was like, oh, okay, that's what I want to do. And then I started pouring through my dad's blues records and found Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then that was my real love affair began with guitar when I heard the blues. I think that's kind of what happened there, and then I just sort of like started traveling through all the people.
Yeah. Did you like get into some of like the Mississippi John Hurt stuff as far as like your right hand technique or anything at all? Any like the Delta stuff at all?
No, I mean I didn't get it at the time. Like when I heard Stevie Ray doing like that kind of like the Albert King stuff, which I didn't realize at the time was Stevie Ray doing Albert King. Right. But when I heard that for the first time, that's what really grabbed me, and the sound and the energy, and the like, even Robert Johnson, Mississippi John Hurt, Elmore James, like anybody that came before, I didn't get it. Yeah. It was like it was far beyond what I could comprehend, and it wasn't until later when I really started getting into more time and feel that I realized, like, oh man, these guys are the heaviest. Like there's a reason why everybody goes, this is my favorite,
Right.
Because even like I would read Stevie Ray interviews and he would say Hendrix is my guy, and I'd be like, I don't get it, you're so much better than Hendrix. And then when I went back and listened, was like, oh, what I did with the piece of history I was missing is that no one had done it like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And like Hendrix started something, and all these people before, they started all of this, and I was missing that piece. You know what I mean? So I've since gone back and really gotten into some of the older guys, but the one that, and I think you and I have talked about him, but the one that I really got into is one of Ry Cooder's early influences, and a Bahamas guitar player named Joseph Spence, who was like this old kind of gospel guy who played in some variety of open C tuning. I don't think it was this one, or the one that I use, but he just like the second that I heard Joseph Spence, then I understood Ry Cooder, like, or at least I began to understand where Ry Cooder was coming from. So that, for me, it's always been like, I always go the wrong way. I start at the end of the road and then go backwards.
I think that's what we all do. And that's kind of what I wanted this thing to be, is like a vehicle to talk about that, because when I started playing guitar, it was because of Pearl Jam. Like I heard, I heard 10, and we've talked about this. I'm a huge Pearl Jam nerd. And like, I heard Mike McCready play, and then I had to go backwards. I had to be like, who did he listen to? And it was Stevie, and it was Jimmy, and it was like all these players that we all have grown to love. And the Three Kings and all that stuff is hip. And like, I feel like the whole idea of like music education, it has to happen that way almost. Like you have to be unhip and then become hip later. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's not an easy path to traverse in my mind, especially if you grew up in a house without music. Like my parents didn't listen to music. I had to like find that crap on my own, man. So it's like it's an interesting journey. And that's what I kind of want people to impart to people, is like folks like yourself and other artists. This is how we all do it, man. And I think transcribing, and you and I have talked about this at length too, but like transcribing stuff is one of the best teachers you'll ever have. As far as like picking apart and like a specific guitar solo, or picking apart a piano part or a horn line or whatever it may be, that stuff teaches you immensely on your instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no better teacher. There's no better teacher, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you want to emulate your heroes and do things that copying licks from whatever, and then turn it into your own later. It's a stepping stone to get better on your instrument, as far as I'm concerned. But
totally.
Yeah. Can we go back and talk a little bit really quick about your sideman, like the kind of transition from sideman into your like solo career and the Brothers Landreth and all that stuff? Like, I'm curious, like, because we've never really talked about that, as far as because I know like in the Winnipeg scene, and I know in Canada, because I mean, there's so many bands I love from Canada, like but like just talk a little bit about the styles that you were playing and how that kind of morphed, because I'm sure there's tons of stuff out there with interviews with you talking a little bit about kind of how you got into open C, and everybody knows about the string gauges and like how you tune and all that. I don't want to go into that. I want to talk about like your experience as a musician, and the learning process.
Yeah, so I really, like, initially my goal when I was in high school, and like, because I was not a great student academically, but I realize now that what I was missing in high school was not. I always thought I was dumb. I'm not dumb, but I wasn't inspired academically because I killed all my music courses. Like I graduated with honors only because of all of the music classes that I took. Like I sang in 4 choirs at one point. I played in the stage band. We called it concert band at the time. So I played trumpet in the concert band. I played guitar in the jazz band. I played in the accompaniment for some of the junior choirs. I sang in all the choirs. Like I sang in choir class, chamber choir, vocal jazz. I was super into all that stuff. So and drama class, like all that stuff. And those are the things that helped me get through high school. But I really wanted to go to music school. I didn't understand really why. I didn't know what I wanted to get out of it, but I just knew that I wanted to study music. And I started looking at schools. I started looking at the application process. And I had my eye on a handful of schools. And I just like something in me was just like, I think I'm just going to take a year off. And funny enough, my mom went to a psychic. And in hindsight, like, this is not psychic. This is just every teenager ever. But the psychic was like, tell your son if he doesn't go to school now, he never will. It's like, it's a 50-50 chance. This is not this is not premonition. This is binary. You either will or you won't. So I decided to take a year off, and then I went. I got a call to sub in for, because Winnipeg's a small place. But I got a call to sub in for Murray Pulver, who wound up producing a bunch of my records, to sub in for him in like a party band, in a Cajun band that was based out of here. And then eventually Murray got busier and busier doing other stuff, and the gig became mine. And from there, I wound up meeting a country artist at a festival that I was playing with, Johnny Cajun, which was the name of the Cajun band. And he's from the next province over, Saskatchewan. So he lived in Saskatoon. I lived in Winnipeg. Saskatoon and Winnipeg are like a 9-hour drive apart, just for all our non-Canadian friends. So it was not exactly a commutable thing, but I did. Like I drove back and forth all summer long. Like every other weekend, I was going back and forth from Saskatoon to Winnipeg. So I know the Yellowhead Highway really well. So that was kind of my first sort of pro gig, where I was backing somebody up and I was cutting my teeth, learning songs. And I credit a lot of like my vocal harmony sort of arrangement things from learning country tunes. So like, we'd play 40 songs in a night, sometimes. And I would get like, every handful of gigs, I'd get a list of 20 tunes to learn. And it would be like, well, who's going to sing what part? Well, I don't know. So I'd learn all the parts, because I didn't know which part the fiddle player was going to get. Because sometimes, the fiddle player was a gal, but she's an alto. So sometimes she sang the lower part. So I would grab the higher part, so we were always flip-flopping. So I really cut my teeth and learned a lot about that kind of stuff from learning like Vince Gill tunes and Brooks and Dunn, and, kind of all that, like the great tunes from the 90s. That was a massive education. I learned so much about music from that. And from there, I ended up same kind of situation. They have a big country music award thing, and I wound up meeting a bunch of other artists, and then started to get calls. Like I was never the greatest guitar player on the scene, not by a long stretch, but I was a good singer. So I was like a good enough guitar player in the country scene, but I was a good harmony singer. So that's kind of what I think kept me working. And I wound up working for a band called One More Girl, which was a duo out of Vancouver. And I played with them for a handful of years. And then I got hired to play with a band called Doc Walker, which was they were actually from a town about 45 minutes away from Winnipeg called Portage la Prairie. And they were a really big band. So I subbed in for them. Funny enough, Murray Pulver was the first guitar player in that band. So like this is how incestuous this scene is here. But I ended up getting that gig. I toured with them for a couple of years. And I toured with another band called Emerson Drive. I subbed in for a guy named Dallas Smith a couple times, who's a pretty big name act up here. I just sort of bounced around that scene, and I kind of got like, I had this moment where I was headlining. Of course, it wasn't my show. I was playing in the band, but we were headlining the arena here in town. So we were playing for like, 20,000 people or 15,000 people. And
Wow.
I was so excited because it's like arena, I got a guitar tech, the whole thing, it all looks right. And we were in the middle of my favorite song of the night. And I walked out to the front of the stage to play the solo, and I felt nothing. It was like it wasn't because I didn't love the guys. It wasn't because I didn't love the music or love what I was doing, but it was just like, this isn't my thing. And so,
Mhm.
as amazing as this moment is, it's not my moment. And not that it was like about an ego thing. It was just like, I think I want to just go find my moment. And so it was kind of in and around then when I called my brother on the phone and said, "Hey, let's write some tunes." And we started, at the time we didn't realize it was what we were doing, but we started working on the material for our first record. And my brother is like as well as being, my favorite bass player on the planet, he's also an incredible businessman. And so while we were writing these tunes, I think he was kind of going like, man, I think this stuff is good. And so here in Canada, we get a lot of support from the government. So he started figuring out how to apply for grants and started researching that. And we put in our first grant application, and we got a little bit of support. Our aunt loaned us like 10 grand to make our first record. So we got a lot of
Dope.
help, and we made our first album and released it. And basically from that point on, the rest is history. And we've always been chasing, pardon me, always been chasing the muse that way. So,
Mhm.
I mean, we never really know what we're doing. I think now we probably have a better idea than we ever have.
Mhm.
Um, but we're still just kind of improvising, and um, I think if I can be that guy, um, the way that my career has gone is kind of the way that I play guitar. Is like something happens, and then I try my best to be patient and react to the thing
Mhm.
that happened. So, with the Brothers Landreth, like we we wound up we released a record in 2013, and we toured it around, and we got a bunch of attention. And then we got the attention of an American record label in Nashville. We signed with them. We re-released the record. We kept touring through 2014. Uh, we won a Juno Award, which is like a Canadian Grammy. In
Yeah, man.
2015, we kept touring. Then we got invited to go to Australia. We got invited to go to Europe, and it was just like every step of the way. So we wound up touring the same record for like 3 years, and then
I'm
eventually it was like, oh, this is too much. And then the band broke, so we took a break.
right.
But
Were you and
it,
Dave writing before you had called him originally to write the stuff for Let It Lie? Or like had you guys written before throughout your life? Like, did you have stuff floating around already, or was that like a new thing that you guys were like, let's do
it was pretty
this?
much brand new. Like I had the songs that I had beforehand were um, Our Love, Firecracker, and Runaway Train. But Runaway Train was a ballad before it turned into the thing that's on the record. It was like singing your name like a meditation.
That's
And it was the same, basically, feel, key, chord change. Everything was the same as Firecracker. And Murray, our producer, was like, we can't put those two songs on the same record. Uh, and then uh, he had sort of said, hey, have you heard that John Hyatt tune, Slow Turning? I was like, yeah. He was like, what if we put that feel on that tune? And then what Runaway Train is now is where that kind of wound up. But yeah, so those were the three songs that we had, and then Dave and I wrote everything else, um, pretty much exclusively together, with exception of a couple of tunes we co-wrote with a friend named Alexa Dirks, who now goes by the name Begonia, who
okay.
she's one of my favorite writers, artists, people, period. Yeah.
That's some praise. There you
So
go.
that's the history of yours truly in 12 minutes.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, I think it's nice for young guitarists to know the pathway too, because it doesn't always happen the way you want it to happen right away. Like, and you have to make a conscious effort like you did, like to be playing a stage that big and be like, nah, nah, this is not how I want to play this stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I think that's brave.
I wanted it to be, and I thought it was, I really, really thought that it was. And it wasn't until it was like, my hometown show, my favorite song, like, and legitimately some of my favorite people, you know, and it was like, man, I should feel something more than what I am. And then I
Mhm.
was gone for another 6 weeks. I had just met uh the person who became my wife, like, weeks before I went on that tour, and I was gone for over a month. We were partying pretty hard, and I came home and was just like, yeah, if I'm gonna be away from home like this, away from this person, it's gotta mean something. It's gotta be worth it. And playing other people's music was not that. And the other thing is, like, as a side person, you kind of get to the point where, like, you realize that no matter what, you're at the mercy of the artist. So if the artist
Mhm.
is kind of feeling burnt out or wants to write a new record, you're on your ass.
Mhm.
Like, and when I was playing with those bands, I was making good money, like, way more money than I make now. Um, but the second that that stuff dried up, I realized, like, oh man, like,
Mhm.
there's here's the ceiling, and it's and it and you find it, and I hear it all the time from side people, like, going like, oh well, the artist wants this, the artist wants that. It's like, no, 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 no. Like, this is the artist's business. They get to do whatever they want. You chose to be this person. And this
Mhm.
is of all the great things, you don't have to do the business. You don't have to do the books. You don't have to deal with management agents, blah, 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 blah. Somebody sets up your gear for you, and that's payment uh for not having to do all that shit.
Yep.
But the sort of other side of that is it's gone in a second if the artist wants to take a break. So it's one of these things, um and I've watched a lot of people grow resentful for the people that they work for, and now that I've been that side person and I've been the artist, I understand. And so when I'm running my bands, we try to keep the communication as open as we possibly can, and you learn a lot of lessons along the way. But it's yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I can see you doing that. What were you playing on that arena? Like, what were you playing through? I'm just curious. Like, do you remember what
um
you were playing through?
Absolutely. I remember what guitar I was playing in the moment that I had it. So I had an Epiphone hollow body that looked kind of like a Gretsch, that Gibson had given to me for the tour, and it looked great. It sounded okay, um, but at the volumes we were playing, it was a nightmare. But I just wanted to be that country guy with like a Gretsch looking guitar and a Bigsby, and I was
Yeah.
playing, but I was playing that through a Marshall JTM 45 clone. So it's just like,
Really?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
Well, because
Okay.
somebody had told me that Doyle Bramhall used a JTM 45, which I've later found out he actually uses a super bass, I think. Um,
Mm.
so I don't know. But I was like, well, if that's what Doyle likes, then that's what I'm gonna do. And
Okay.
I never actually wanted to be or really loved country music, but I played a lot of it and I learned a lot of it. But I always just kind of wanted to be Doyle Bramhall. Like, I wanted to be, cranked
Don't we
Strat,
all?
fuzz pedal. I still want to be Doyle Bramhall.
I know, man.
I've met him a couple times and then just like made an absolute idiot out of myself. Hey, man, my name's Joe. But he's a really, really sweet guy. But
It all
I've never.
trickles down though. It all trickles down because I mean I don't know if I texted you like a couple months ago of my pedal board and basically half of them were your fault. Like
Yeah,
it was basically all the stuff that you're like, yeah, you should check this out. You should check this out. And then like the
yeah,
other
sorry
half
about that.
was Doyle.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
it's just
totally,
like,
totally.
and it's funny how that stuff works because it's you always chase tone and you're always looking. And I have to check out your new pedal too. I gotta check out that Jackson audio pedal.
Oh man, it's
Audio
dope.
pedal.
It's dope. I'll as soon as I get some more in stock, I'll make sure one gets your way.
Okay, yeah, I gotta check it out. I've been finally understanding the whole idea of the blues breaker. Like
Oh yeah,
I don't think I really understood it until like this past year, man. Like I
yeah,
was kind of like Tube Screamer, like Klon, blah blah blah,
for
like all
sure.
the time. And
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
great. And I love the Jan Ray. I freaking love the Jan Ray.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I got the duelist and I started messing with that left side, I was like,
Ooh,
okay, there's
hello.
something
Yeah.
here, you
For
know?
me, it was Dan Steinhardt from the Pedal Show, and I was putting together a tour or a board for my first solo UK tour, and he was going to help me build it. And I said, like, after listening to my music, what do you think I should be using? This is what I am using, and what do you think I should be using? And he just sort of said, you need a King of Tone. And so I managed to get my hands on one, and that was like, oh man, this is something that I understand. Like it just immediately did what I kind of wanted it to do. And the thing that I couldn't stand about a lot of overdrive pedals was just how much of the bottom drops out. And you still do get that with the Blues Breaker, but not as much. And yeah, and then from there, I mean, all the nerds watching this know.
I feel like the whole the Blues Breaker thing to me that I really found that I like that I didn't think I would like is the darkness of it. Because I always felt like, you know, because you got to get that Stevie tone, you got to put on the right side of that pedal and get it glassy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And really bright.
Yeah.
But like, especially for slide, like after working with you and like kind of working on my slide tone, because Derek was always my like level to meet that tone. I was always chasing that Derek Trucks thing. And I was like,
we all are.
Yeah. And it's just like, how do you get that? And how do you get like that clean, sweet, like slide tone? And I was messing with that last night. I was just messing with Mjolnir and just kind of like, well, just putting up around 10 o'clock, the gain around 10 o'clock and backing my volume down a little bit. I was like, that's it. All you need is like a little bit of a boost, like just a little bit. Has to be a little hairy, but not that much. You know what I mean? But there's something about the magic of the Blues Breaker circuit that I didn't respect until now. Like didn't until like maybe 3 months ago, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's all just a journey. You know, you find stuff and like I'm constantly finding new things that I never thought I would like and then plug them in and go, shit, I really love this. Like I never, ever, ever in a million years have been into buffers. Not interested whatsoever. But there's this dude, Jesse in California. He's got a company called 29 Pedals, and he makes this thing called the Una, EUNA, and it's just like there's no dials. There's 3 dip switches, and it's either buffer on, buffer off. Goes at the front of your board, and then there's like a loop. If you have fuzz pedals that don't like buffers, you can put the fuzz pedal in the loop, and it's just like I'll try. I mean, it might be hard to hear over the internet, but here's my clean tone. And then here's with the and it's just like I don't know what it's doing, but I know that it's better on and it's worse when it's off. So
you can tell like there's a little bit, it's almost like there's like a presence, almost like a presence knob, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's 3 filters on it. There's a low end filter, and then there's something he calls a band pass filter, but I think it's basically like a little mid range boost. And then there's one called harmonics, which is kind of registers to my ear as top end. So, but they all are really cool. And like play my Strat through it, sounds amazing. Play the Les Paul through it, sounds amazing. Like, dang, we even put my brother's bass through it into an Ampeg flip top reissue. And even that sounds amazing. So it's just like, I don't know. Actually, he and I've been talking about getting on the phone just so that he can tell me what this pedal is doing, but we haven't been able to connect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what it's doing, but it's awesome. Check them out. 29
That's
pedals.
fun, dude.
Yeah. And the other dude that I'm really into right now is Spruce Effects.
Okay.
Makes
anything like in particular?
Like all his fuzz pedals are super cool. Super cool. Like I got this Range Master, which is also something I never thought I'd be into. Here's my clean tone. So it's just kind of like, to me, it's like if a fuzz pedal were a clean boost. So it's kind of got this like the way a fuzz pedal sort of feels, like kind of janky, a little broken, but not a ton of gain, and it's just meant to hit your amp a little harder. And that's cool. He makes a great fuzz face. He makes a couple of tone benders that are really, really dope. So
Spruce Have you Effects, messed with any of the Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah. 29 pedals and Spruce Effects.
Yes, sir.
Shout outs. Have you messed with any of the new those GHS fuzz? Like the Legacy
No, I haven't checked them out. I've heard nothing but good things. I'm not surprised. Oh man, the other thing I want to mention is Zach's new Mythos, the new Olympus Overdrive.
Woo! Oh yeah.
Fire. Yeah, it's so good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen any. Yeah, of course. I haven't seen any demos yet.
Yeah, it's really new. That's my clean tone. And then hitting it with a clean boost. Anyway, it's awesome.
Oh man,
you're probably hearing too much of my guitar through the microphones, so
no, it's fine.
You got to hear
it
it for yourself. It's really great.
Okay, I'll check it out. Yeah, I saw him like when he released it, but I hadn't seen any demos yet. The internet is exploding with like new gear lately, like the Chase Bliss Benson automatone thing. Like I'm just like,
so wicked.
Oh my god, dude! Like the price, I'm just like, but I'm like, but it looks pretty cool. Like I could use it in the studio, like not take it out on the to gigs.
Oh man, it's so good. I got one, and it's wicked. It's so wicked. I hate how wicked it is.
I mean, you can do so much with it. It seems so versatile between like the fuzz. The fuzz sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really does. Miguel Ramos, sorry, man.
You
gotta do it.
Yeah, man. I mean, that thing. I'm probably gonna have to bite the bullet and get that at some point, dude. Because it's. Yeah. I mean, the faders moving on their by themselves alone. For my daughter, she walked in and I was like. Psh, and she'd be like, what is that?
Man, my cat got a real kick out of it. I put it on my desk and hit like the preset going back, and he was just like, what? Do it again.
Hey, I wanted to talk to you about Little Feat.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Because so I'm a newbie to Little Feat in the past year, and you're not. You've been listening to that music for quite a long time. What's going on with that record that you were putting together? Is that still gonna be coming out?
I'm still working on it, man. It's a labor of love. Geez, if it's not out before January, I'll have been working on it for 3 years. But it just like it's one of those things that I really want to get it right, and if I don't have the time to focus on it like exclusively, I won't want to do a half-assed job. So most of it is finished. I have to do a few things and then we have to mix it. So I basically just have to re-sing a couple of lead vocals that I'm not happy with, and then do the background vocals and then mix it.
Okay.
So it's just one of those. It's one of those projects. Like that music means so much to me, and Lowell George means so much to me that I'm just not in a hurry to get it out. And despite the fact that I'm dying to get it out, I just want to make sure it comes out right. So dude, it's coming. It's coming.
Good. I cannot wait to hear that, man.
Yeah.
So talk a little about Lowell George and like what he means to you, because as a kind of in the past 3 to 4 years, getting it more into slide guitar and stuff, like I didn't really know anything about that dude for the longest time. And then sometimes people would talk to me like, have you listened to Little Feat? I'm like, no, because like I just don't know anything about it. I grew up, I have an older brother and an older sister. My older brother is a huge Deadhead, and I've just now rediscovered my love for the Dead and how amazing those guys were as songwriters. Because for the longest time, man, and I've talked to you about this too, I was playing in the jam band scene and touring and being in a jam band was great and all, but like it wasn't fulfilling like what I wanted to do songwriting wise. Like we were playing too noodly, and I was like, I gotta get away from that. And then I discovered Wayne Krantz, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? And then went to Berkeley and did that whole thing. But just like in the past year, like listening to the Dead again, I never just appreciated their songwriting as much as I do now. But talk a little bit about your experience with Little Feat in that sense, because I think it's interesting.
Well, so Little Feat and Rycooter were like the Bible in our house growing up. And I did not like that music when I was a kid, because it was the music that my parents liked. It was weird and quirky. I didn't get it. It was over my head. And it wasn't until I was a lot older that I really started to get into it. But my dad is like the world's biggest Little Feat fan and the world's biggest Lowell George fan. And so, I started having people say like, oh, you kind of sing like Lowell. I was like, I don't really listen to any Lowell, so I don't think that's possible. Like, you shitty little kid, just like, nope. But what I realized was that I sing like my dad, because my dad, that was the first voice I ever heard singing. I sing like my dad, and my dad sings like Lowell George. Well, and actually, he doesn't sing like Lowell George, but he has little Georgisms in him, And it wasn't until I started to check out a handful of records and I started to hear these things and like, oh, my dad does that. Oh, okay, I get this. And the thing that I think I fell in love with the most was his voice first. And because I was again, same thing with slide guitar. My dad was a massive slide guitar fan, so I just kind of naturally backed away from it. I wasn't really interested in slide guitar at all, and until a lot later. So when I started to kind of dive deep, and because for me, like there was Ry Cooder, Lowell George, and Sonny Landreth in our house, and to me, Sonny was like the Cadillac of all slide guitar players, and there was like, what's the point of even trying? I have the same last name. Why should I even bother when a guy like him exists? And I went and learned a bunch of like I learned which record? I learned one record basically back to front as best I could. And just kind of was like, yeah, like I said, it just didn't see the point. But then when I heard Derek Trucks play, and I heard that kind of gospel influence, and then Josh Smith was like, man, if you like that, you should check out Aubrey Gent. And then I found Aubrey Gent's son, AJ Gent, and then the Campbell brothers and Chuck Campbell and all these great gospel like Sacred Steel players, and I really started to get into that, like not so much as transcription, but as a listener, just really loved it and really appreciated it. And that was kind of what made me go, I mean, I'm messing with the timeline a little bit, but that kind of era and that style of playing is what made me go, okay, I really want to try playing slide guitar. And then I was kind of bit, and then I started to go back, and started to listen to. I started listening to Ry Cooder again, and I started listening to Bonnie Raitt, and I started listening to Lowell and Little Feat, and David Lindley, and even Elmore James. Like I started to go through the list and listen to all these cats, and but when I started to get into Little Feat, it was the songwriting. And it's funny because there's a documentary on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix, a Lowell George documentary, and it's I hesitate to recommend it, not because it's not great, but because it's kind of written by as far as I can tell, by some music critics, and so it's not unbiased. It's very biased. And at the end of the documentary, they talk about the worst Little Feat records, and they're my favorite Little Feat records. So it's like the guy's like, Down on the Farm, what a piece of shit. And the last record album, never saw its potential. And while that might be true, because I think a lot of the early stuff is really, really beautiful, there was a depth to the songwriting, and there was Lowell does sound tired on those records, but there's something incredibly honest. And it was right before he passed away. I think I might be messing up the timeline a little bit, but those were the later records. And I think Down on the Farm was one of the last, if not the last record that he made with Little Feat before he passed away.
Okay. What's your favorite if like you were going to tell somebody, if you're going to listen to Little Feat, listen to this record, like what's your favorite record?
Oh man, I think probably like Feat fans would probably hate me, but I love the last record album. There's some songs on there that are deadly, and I love his solo record. Oh, that was the other thing that the historian dude was like, that's a piece of shit, his solo record. And I love his solo record so much.
Okay.
It's not his solo record is not a Little Feat record. Like I think a lot of the Little Feat guys did play on it, but it's a departure for sure, and it's mostly covers, if not all covers. So it's a really interesting thing, but I think it just sort of shows him as an artist really, really well. Whereas in Little Feat, he is a member of this great band.
Right. Great band.
Great band. Yeah.
What blew my mind was that Robert Palmer Sneakin' Sally Through the Alley. Have you heard that album?
Oh, yeah.
The Meters plus Lil George. I was like, listen to that whole thing. Oh my God, dude. If you guys haven't listened to that album, a lot of people think of Robert Palmer in his 80s world. That record. Ooh. Oh man. Yeah.
It's so good.
And those first three songs, how they just kind of like segue into each other.
Yeah.
What's the first record? So the it's there's a lady in a turban and a coat.
Oh yeah, Sailing Shoes.
Yeah, Sailing Shoes into Julia.
Yeah.
Into Sneakin' Sally.
Hey, Julia.
Oh my
acting so
god,
peculiar. Yeah,
dude! Oh my god,
yeah,
that just the first 3 songs, and then that other tune. What's the slow one? Through It All, There's You. Do you remember that one?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Through It
yeah, yeah. I
All,
don't know that one
There's
as well.
You. And
Yeah.
there's so many like funky. There's a big jam in that song. Like it's like super long. Like you're listening to a Dead record. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so great the way that it kind of weaves in and out, and like the dynamics of that tune. It's just like super screaming loud, and all of a sudden just it's like the air
Yeah.
just gets sucked out. It's so amazing, man.
That
That album.
man,
Mm,
that's my favorite thing, and I think like people like we try to do that as much as possible in the live band. Like I always tell my band like whatever your loudest is, go louder, and whatever your quietest is, go quieter. Like, and I tell drummers like, don't be afraid to stop playing the kick. Like when things get quiet, I want everybody in the room to have to go like, I
mm-hmm.
really, because I think there's something like, and with like loud volumes, you pick your moments. Like you can't always be on 10. It has to be the whole set list has to breathe. And like like I'm really really big on getting the set list right. Like once I find the set list that works, I don't change it. I'm not one of those artists who loves to let's just fly. No, 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 no. It's got to be orchestrated because like all these moments, like the moments in the songs are moments, but then the moments in the set lists are moments too. So like you have all this sort of cascading emotion where like, the set ramps up, in intensity and in volume, and then we go down and we do something like around a condenser, and it just
Yeah.
like we always try to ramp that up before we break it down so that there's like this great release. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my arse now, but
No, no.
like
I mean,
that little feet thing is it, like, and to the point where like you look at the little feet arrangement of Sailing Shoes, and it's like super slow and super
uh-huh.
swampy, and it's just like the
Yeah.
and then by the time the band comes in, it's just like this drunken drum fill. That thunk, thunk, thunk. You gotta put on your sailing shoes. That's such a great moment, man.
Yeah,
I don't
man.
know.
Oh no.
It's yeah, you gotta play all those things like your instrument. You have to be as proficient dynamically as you are musically, I think. At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and the set list has to have a tempo too. Like, you
Totally.
know what I mean?
Totally.
And dynamics. It's got to be that way. So I mean,
Mhm.
that makes total sense. What is a we're gonna wrap up here soon, but what's an album or a band that you like love that people probably don't know? Like people think of you as Joey Landreth, this blues slide guitarist, wonderful songwriter. Like, what's something that you love to listen to that's like a guilty pleasure, or something that's like, oh, this is so good. I'm gonna listen to it twice. You know what I mean?
uh oh man. Oh, what could I even say? Uh I think probably my like most of the things that I listen to might surprise your average person based on the music that I make. I listen to very little music that sounds like what I make. Not that there isn't lots of stuff that sounds like what I make, but I'm like by the time I'm done making it, I don't want to hear any more of it.
Yeah.
So like I listen to a lot of classical music. I'm a really big fan of um Bach, like Father Bach. I really like Debussy. Lately, I've been getting into Shostakovich, um, things like that, and not for any other reason than I'm just fascinated by how incredibly complex the some of the rules for making, like if you ever look at the rules for making a fugue, but then you listen to Shostakovich write a fugue, and you're still like, you are literally following this insane handbook, but this music that's coming out is some of the most gorgeous, amazing things I've ever heard.
Mhm.
Stuff like that. But I also really love Emily King. She's like probably my favorite artist in a really, really long time, and she's kind of like almost pop R&B. I hesitate to really even call it pop because it's super poppy and crazy hooky, but it's just like it's got its own kind of thing. She's a great writer and she's a great producer, gets killer sounds, and
Mhm.
I think her production partner is this dude named Jeremy Most, who's a great guitar player. I believe. Just this is all. I only know this stuff based on like Instagram posts and what I've kind of pieced together in my head.
Right. And we've talked about like Theo Katzman, like being
yeah. Theo Katzman, man, that dude is. It's not fair how good that guy is at everything.
He's pretty talented. Yeah. He's pretty good. What are your thoughts? Are you into Hornsby at all?
Bruce Hornsby? Dude, absolutely. That record, the record with that's like got Pat Metheny on it, and
you're talking about Hot House?
Hot House. Oh my god, I love that record. When I was in high school, I walked to and from school listening to Hot House. It's like
I think Gary plays on that record too. I'm pretty sure Jerry Garcia plays on that record too. Like he had Bonnie Raitt sing on it.
Yeah. It's funny because I wasn't aware of any of those people at the time that I was listening to a record like that. I was pretty young, so like none of the names would have been familiar to me at the time. It was just like this collection of music that I really, really loved. Like the solo, the Pat Metheny solo on White Wheeled Limousine. Holy shit. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. I've been trying to shed on some of that stuff on piano, like just like Tango King, that tune that's in 9.
Yeah.
It's just like there's little things that he does that he totally ganked that from a Grateful Dead jam too, from like Estimated Prophet when it goes California. Like he totally grabbed that vibe. There's a whole story about Bob Weir, and I can't remember who was sitting side stage while Hornsby was playing, and then he was done, and they ended with that song, and he was walking off, and Bob was like, "You didn't even try to hide it, did you?" Because like Hornsby played, that was right like after Hornsby had been playing with them, right after Brett Midland died. But if you listen to that, if you guys haven't heard Hot House Spirit Trail is amazing. It's like a double record. I mean, Hornsby's he's still at the top of his game, man.
He put out one in like the mid 2000s that had a lot of really, really nice stuff on it. And there's like I wish I could remember the name of it, but there's a song on it talking about how all of his siblings are really good looking, but he fell from the ugly tree and hit every stick on the way down or something like that.
Yeah, what the hell happened to me?
Yes, that record. I love that record too.
Halcyon
Days. What the hell happened to me?
Yeah. And that song, there's another tune on there that's like a stride piano thing. That's Air Gordon. It's like that same kind of
Air Gordon.
Yeah, man. I can see you covering that stuff. Man,
I forgot about that record. Yeah.
Dig it up, bro.
Yeah, I will. What else? Okay, well that's cool. What else do I listen to that maybe nobody else would think of? I don't know. All that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we listen to so much music. I think the whole point of this thing too today is like, I think there's a lot of folks like yourself who are we're all just dudes. We're all musicians. Like we all come from a path, and like I think finding like and knowing that the path of what you walked is similar to what everybody's walking right now is like to find your way as a musician is kind of like what I'm trying to impart with this series is just like, we're all kind of like making our way and figuring it out as we go. Like you were saying, like improvising as we go. And you know, it's just such a hard thing to do. There's so much music available now too. So like what you're saying about like listening, it's just like, so much music, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think if there's any one piece of advice that was given to me that I could pass on in terms of like doing your own thing is just be unashamedly yourself. Like the second that you catch yourself trying deliberately to do something because you think it might move you forward, just forget doing that. You know, every bit of success that I've had, and I mean, you know, not without acknowledging the incredible privilege I have for being a white dude in this world. That needs to be mentioned. But everything I've had is kind of luck, you know, and like every time we went out and did something and somebody said, you guys should do more of this or you should do more of that. It was always the wrong advice. It was like, and I use the example of like, do you remember when, what's that country dude who started playing like heavy metal country? Jason Aldean. He put out that first record, and I was playing a lot of country music at the time, like early 2000s. And he put out that first record, and it went nuts. Like he was like massive over that record. And then everybody started to try to do it, and it never worked. And it was because that's actually, I think, who that guy is. You know, he's a redneck who likes heavy metal. And so that's the sound that he makes. And it worked in the time. And everybody who came after him who tried to do it, it was too late because it was already done. Somebody had already done it authentically. And you don't need another one. And if you wind up having mild successes, you know, riding someone else's coattails, you'll never reach the same heights that they did because it's already been done. And not that I've, you know, reached any kind of critical acclaim or anything, but any success that I do have, I attribute to the fact that we've always just kind of done our thing.
Yeah.
When we put out Let It Lie, everybody that heard it was like, this sounds good, but it's too clean. Like, I wish it sounded more like a Black Keys record. I was like, yeah, but we don't do that. This is what we do. Like, I grew up listening to Little Feat and Steely Dan, and I grew up listening to records that were made a particular way, and I like that sound. And so that's how we've made this record. And lo and behold, you know, the people, like, not that the Black Keys aren't still super killer and relevant, but we stopped hearing that advice, and people just started to accept the sound that we made as the sound that we made, and we just sort of carved our own little tiny trench. And I think that's the thing. And the reality of it is that you are innately unique from everybody else just by virtue. It's like fingerprints. Like you make your own sound. You literally make your own sound, even when you rip somebody else off blatantly. Like, I mean, you've heard me say this, and I say this a lot, but like when I hear myself play, I just hear bad impressions of my favorite guitar players.
Yeah.
But somehow other people hear something unique, and I think it's because they don't have the perspective of my record collection. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like, or you don't have the bias of, you know, your own filter, so you're able to hear it for the first time. Whereas when I hear it, it's just like, oh, that's this thing, that's that thing. Oh, now you're trying not to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, you can't hear that stuff, but that's your identity. Your own influences through your own filter, and that's the thing that you have to capitalize on. Not even capitalize on, but you just have to focus on. So,
preach words of wisdom, my friend. All right, so we're gonna end this conversation because I'm gonna let you go back and do your thing. But before we end this thing at home with Mark, and have a lightning round questions at the end here.
Love it.
So I'm gonna fire away. I'm gonna put. My wife had a good idea because I was like, I wish I had a clock. And she's like, put your metronome on, idiot. And I was like, oh yeah. So here we go. You ready? Yeah. There's no time limit. We're just gonna have fun.
Okay.
We're at 105 BPM. Just so you're aware, in case you wanted to know.
Okay.
All right. Ready? McCartney or Lennon?
McCartney.
Fender or Marshall?
Fender.
Parks and Rec or Community?
Oh. I choose death. I can't choose.
The beach or the mountains?
The beach.
Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles. Oh, actually, unless it's my wife's pancakes, and my wife's pancakes. She makes good pancakes.
We redact it. OD or fuzz?
What kind of amp do I have?
You have a JTM.
Fuzz.
Okay. Flute or oboe?
Oboe.
Snowboard or skateboard?
Skateboard.
CD or vinyl?
Vinyl.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise. Star
Wars or Marvel?
If you'd have said Star Trek, this would have been a problem, but Marvel.
Okay. And the last one, this is going to be the toughest.
Okay.
Derek or Doyle?
I
knew it. I did this on purpose to you.
You are a bad person. I've already chosen death, so I feel like I can't. You know what? I go with Doyle only because I'm not even going to give a reason. I'm just going to go with Doyle just because of ponchos.
All right. Well done, my friend. Well done.
I hope nobody sees that.
Well, that's all good. I mean, you've met Derek too, right? Like, didn't you tell me that one story about how you met him at like a festival and you like sat down and said, "Hey, I play slide guitar."
I met him on 2 different occasions. Both times he was in Winnipeg. The first time was on the Songlines tour, and he was playing at a club, or at a place called the Garrick Theater, and I opened up for him. I was in the band that was opening up for him, and the bass player and I were on cloud nine because it was like the best show I'd seen ever at that point, maybe still to this day. And we're walking down King Street in Winnipeg in front of the King's Head pub, and he was sitting on the patio with his singer having a beer. And so we just stopped and said, like, hey man, I don't want to bug you, I don't want to blow your cover or anything, but that was truly phenomenal. We were in the band opening up, and we just wanted to pour some love on you. That was really, really beautiful. And he was so kind and generous, and said, hey, well, thanks man, appreciate it, loved your guys' set, do you want to come and hang? So I got to hang, and it was back when I was still drinking, so we drank a bunch of beers, and then hung for a few hours. And then later on, I wound up opening up for him. He came through town for our local jazz fest, and I got to open up for him. Then I played solo, and then I got to meet him. I have a picture that I've never posted because I just don't want to be that guy, but I think I'll probably have to dig it up.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, brother, thank you so much for doing this, man. Really appreciate you.
Such a pleasure, man. It's really nice to see you. I miss seeing you. I hope you're well. These times are crazy, but I hope you guys are safe and well and doing okay.
Yeah, man. How about you guys? Everything good? Family good? Everybody's healthy? And
everybody's good. Everybody's healthy. We're a little bored, but if that's the only that's the only thing I can complain about, I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah. Well, I hope you guys stay safe. Canada has handled this way better than the US, so congratulations on that. Wow. And
thank you, and I'm sorry. It's incredibly hard to watch, man. It's incredibly hard to watch, and
it's a dumpster fire down here.
It's a car. It's a car on fire that crashed into a dumpster on fire. I mean, I shouldn't even make light of it, but I know so many great folks who are having such a tough time because of this, and I just wish it was different. I just wish it was different.
I know, man. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait till you're back on the stage, back in this area, buddy. I'll be there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Thanks so much. Remember, subscribe, because I'm going to be doing these once a month. I had Joey. We're going to have Danny Mayer from Eric Krasno's band. We got Jordan Rose going to be stopping by from Theo Castle's band, and several other cool peeps. But yeah, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thank you again, Joey.
Pleasure. Take care, guys.
See you guys. Ending.